Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. And in this episode, I'm going to be in this episode, I'm going to be giving you a breakdown of the freight broker business model and the truck driver or owner operator that works for the freight broker to help you understand, is that the right business financial model for you? So, as we talked about in the previous video, I gave a breakdown of the dispatchers, but I went over the difference between the freight forwarder, the freight broker, and the dispatcher. And just to give you a quick refresher in case you missed that video, we're going to click over here and walk through that real quick. So we said that the freight forwarder's responsibility was specializing in making arrangements for cargo on behalf of shippers. Most of the time, those are international shipments. They involve an importing and exporting territory. Then we talked about the freight broker being the facilitator between arranging freight for shippers and utilizing carriers to do so. And we gave a quick overview on what that looks like in the communication process. And then the final one is we gave a breakdown of what dispatchers do. And then I went into talking about how dispatchers are making money off of brokers and what that business model looks like and whether that's the right one for you. So in this one, I'm going to be taking a little bit deeper dive into what a freight broker does. Now, freight brokers and freight forwarders are very similar. The only difference is that one does not do international shipments because they don't have the proper licensing through the proper agencies that they need to have them. So they mostly work with domestic truck drivers and moving freight and helping shippers arrange freight between those two entities. And then sometimes they may work with freight brokers, or freight forwarders as well. Now, dispatchers will work with both of those entities, and a dispatcher will get a cut from another cut. Now, what I'm saying here is that the shipper pays the bulk. Once they pass that load off, the freight forwarder is going to take a slice, pass it to the broker. They're going to take a slice of the money, pass it to the dispatcher. They're going to take a slice, finally getting down to the truck driver who is doing the majority of the work. Just saying. Now, let's take a little deep dive into this freight broker process. Now, what I did here is I went back to my handy board and I sorted out the freight on this particular load board by name because I was looking for a broker. I wanted to find somebody who was a broker. And I see here that I'm probably butchering their name, but Beery Brokerage Company. They're located in Iowa. I did a little Google search on their company. And let me see, hold on. Here you go. They're out of Iowa. And so looking at their company, they seem pretty decent. They work with carriers. You can sign up and be a carrier with them. They say that carriers love them. They work with shippers. They've got some testimonials here, and they ask you can get a quote. Then they talk about a little bit about their story. I see here they have some Berry trucking, and then you can contact them. And they also have here available loads. And I clicked on this link, and it brought me to this document here, which gives a breakdown of some of the loads that they have and the commodities. Now, I saw that they had a lot of lumber, and it's coming out of Atlanta, Florida. It's coming out of Alabama. It's going to Atlanta, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky. Now, as I talked about earlier, finding your zone, finding the place that you want to work from and work out of. Now, I would love to work with this company because what I see here is they're in my zone. So if I had some trucks and I'm like, oh, I want to team up with this company right here, they're brokering in my backyard. They're not located in my backyard, but they're brokering in my backyard. But I was curious, is it worth it? Is it worth working with them? What kind of money am I going to be making? What kind of money am I going to be paying them? Okay. Now, if I was working with a dispatcher, my dispatcher would be reaching out to this broker to help me get my loads. And you saw how much money I'd be paying them. But let's say I push my dispatcher out of the way and I tell myself, I decide I want to work directly with Berry Brokerage. I'm bypassing the dispatcher, cutting out that guy right there. So now I'm going to evaluate my plan with no dispatcher. All right. So we're going to take a look and see how that works. But before we do, didn't do my little intro here. My name is Jill Williams, and I am here to help you understand business models for your freight business. So if you like the content that you see, I'm going to ask that you subscribe, hit the like button, share this video, and I would definitely love for you to support this channel to help it grow so I can continue to bring you good quality videos like this. Okay, so we're going to take a deeper dive into this. I had a question. I was curious, so I went to Google, my handy Google, and I said, what do shippers pay brokers for lumber loads? And then I didn't get a really good answer because it typed in lumper, not lumber. So then I asked, how do freight brokers get paid from shippers? And it said that freight brokers make their money in the margin between the amount they charge each shipper, their customer, and what they pay the carrier, the truck driver, for each shipment. So down here, as you can see, they're saying that the typically claim a net margin of 3 to 8% on each load. 3 to 8% on each load. So we're going to work with 3 per 8%. We're going to take it up to 8%. We're going to go for the gusto. Okay. So we're going to get out our great sheet here. I've zeroed things out so this way you guys can get a clean slate. Now, as we were looking at the board, we see some good loads here. We see a lot of things coming out of Appling, Georgia, Barnesville, Georgia, and we see it going to this is going from Georgia to Georgia. This is Alabama, Texas. Texas is out of my zone, but Florida's in my zone. North Carolina's in my zone. Let's see. Okay, so let's go North Carolina. We got coming out of Barnesville, Georgia, going to Morrisville, North Carolina. They're saying that the load pay rate is $1,050, $2.32 a mile. Now, this $1,050, let's just assume that this represents the 92%. Okay, that's left over. We got 100%. They took out their 8%. That the 1,050 represents the 92% that's left over. Okay, so we got to kind of get these figures in our mind. So in the margins here, we know that 1,050, okay, dollars is 92%. 92%. Okay, that's what we know. Now I'm going to put a dollar sign on that. So what's the 8%? Okay, how do we find out the 8%? Okay, that's the question. How do we find out the 8%? Now, you can do some fancy math and stuff. And I've already actually done it. And what I came out with is that the 8%, if we added in 8%, the total load rate would be $1,063. Okay, so $1,630. Okay, that represents. Excuse me, I'm gonna go put this down here. $1,630. Okay, and that represents 100%. All right, we know that. So now the difference between these two equals this 8%. So if we say this equals the sum of this minus this, we get $580. That's a lot. $580 is the 8%. How can we test this? We can say that 1,000, we'll test it. We'll say 8% of 1630. Because that 580 seems pretty high. That seems pretty high, but that's what my numbers show me. So if we say 1630, this right here, so this would equals the sum of this times this equals, now that says $130. So I'm not sure why this would be 8%. That's interesting. When we say 8% from 1630, we get $130. So that doesn't add up, though. That doesn't add up at all. So I got to check my math. Let me check my math real quick. So we got 1,050 times 100 equals divided by 92%. Move that decimal over. Should be, okay, I typed in the wrong numbers. I'm looking at the wrong numbers. I did a different math. My bad. It's actually 1141.00. There we go. Okay. See, that looks much better. Okay. I'd put in the wrong numbers. My bad, because I had done a different calculation down here below. So here we go. So we're looking at, they're making $91 from this load, plus or minus, okay? They have, so you're probably wondering, well, how are they making money? Well, you look at how many loads they've got on this board. We look at this board, these guys got a lot of loads coming out. I mean, was that 10 loads? And if we look at their little worksheet here, we see, let me make this smaller, 50%. There we go. So we see just in this half right up here, they've got the first from 3 to 18. So that's about of just lumber. So that in itself, coming out of Alberton, and if they're making 8% on each of those loads, this has got Fulton, all kinds of, so it's possible they're making their money in volume, not necessarily raking the driver over the coals, or making their money in volume. That's what they're making their money in. So if they've got here over 200 loads, and when they get them all filled, and they're making $92 on average per load, 92 times 200, they're making $1,800, $400, let's say, in a day, times 365 days. I'm just jumping up. Okay, that's about 6.7 million a year, but that's in volume. So this is where the broker's making their money, in volume. Now, is that reasonable for you? Let's take a look. So if we plug in these numbers here, and we say that it's paying 1,050, okay, and the broker is fee, actually they made 8%, so actually the load pays 1141, and they're taking 8%. All right, so per mile they were paying $2.32 a mile. So they're paying $2.32 a mile. All right, let's say they're taking their 8% from that. That's 19 cents. And where are we going? How many miles is it between Barnes, or where is it, 1,050? We're going from Barnesville to Mooresville, North Carolina. So let's go over here to Google Maps. Oops, Google Maps. It's from Florida. Let's go to Morrisville, North Carolina. And we are doing 450 miles. So let's go back over here and type in my 450 miles. 450 miles. Ooh, that's still a lot. That is quite a bit of money. Now, they're paying you more if they take their 8%, they're taking their 8% from the payload. The driver's getting an extra $7.76 is the difference. The driver should be making more than they should be. It's interesting. So you definitely can see how brokers can level up based on the driver. Now, I know a lot of people are spicy towards brokers. I don't like that brokers are making their money, but just you can see in this evaluation here, it's in volume that brokers are making money. As a driver, you're only one person. And you've only got one truck, and you can only drive 60 hours a week. You can only drive 11 hours a day. So it's your volume that you're missing out on. If you can increase the amount of load you can move, that's going to be more money you can make. But it's always going to be challenging for the driver because you're only one driver. You can only drive one truck at a time, and you can only do one load at a time, 11 hours a day, 660 miles a day. That's just the nature of the beast. And so when you're looking at here is which model is best for you. Now, as you can see here, when we do this particular model, it would be better if you got the top 8% came off the top versus 8% coming out of the mileage rate versus 8% coming out the top. Because if you do mileage rate, the broker's not making as much. If they're breaking it off the top, they're making more. But you can see from this evaluation whether or not this works for you. Would you rather work for the dispatcher or work for the broker? Me personally, I want to get as close to that freight as possible. That's what I want to do. I want to get as close to that freight as possible. So therefore, if I can cut out the dispatcher, if I can cut out the freight broker, and I can land a position or with the shipper or the freight forwarder, that's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. All right, so this is a good exercise so you guys can get an idea why a lot of people are complaining about brokers, giving you an idea. And again, these numbers are just for educational purposes. I don't have any affiliation with any of these businesses. I'm pulling them all off the top just to give you a breakdown of how to evaluate those business models and how beneficial or unbeneficial they are to you as an owner-operator and freight business as a overall. So I hope this was helpful for you. Once again, please subscribe, give a like, share the video, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me.